Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheila again with this week's story. Now, that story is called The Other Boy. Well, Tom had just come running into the house. Mama, Mama! He was so excited that he was shouting at the top of his lungs. Well, Tom had a baby sister. And Tom had known for a long time that when it was baby sister's nap time, you didn't yell, especially not at the top of your lungs. And baby sister had gotten scared and her face all screwed up and she started to wail. Well, Mother came in and she kind of half grinned at Tom and half frowned at him. But she said, "All right. You can't tell me what you're so excited about until you rock the baby back to sleep." Mother had been busy in the kitchen. So Tom, he kind of sheepishly got down and he started rocking the cradle back and forth, back and forth. Well, it wasn't too long till baby sister was sound asleep again. And Mother said, "Okay, Tom, come over here and quietly tell me what you're so excited about." And Tom said, "I'm sorry I woke the baby, but I'm so excited. Oh, Mom, I just know I'm going to get that position with Mr. Lawrence at his store. And Mom, he's going to pay $5 a week." Now, you have to remember that this was in the 1930s. And $5 was equal to about $100 in our day and age. So that was a lot of money for that family. For Tom and his mother and baby sister. His mom was a widow. Well, he just couldn't wipe the grin off of his face. He was so excited. And he said, "Oh, Mom, I just know I'm going to get it." And she looked at him, she said, "You haven't got it yet?" And he said, "Well, no, but I really think I am. Mr. Lawrence told me that he really thought I'd be good for the position, and he wanted me to come tomorrow morning. But there's one other boy he needs to interview. He said that the guy had said that he really needed the job, and Mr. Lawrence thought that he should interview him. But Mom, I'm sure I'm going to get it." Well, it wasn't really easy to get jobs. Things had been bad. The depression was just starting to get over. It was bad. But Tom and Mom had been doing okay. They lived in a small little place, but it was clean and neat, and Mama decorated it as best as she could. Well, Mother was excited about the fact that maybe Tom was going to get that job. Mother had always wished for Tom to get a good position, as she called it, where he could work his way up and he could make everybody know how good and faithful he was as a boy. Well, all that evening, although the job wasn't exactly his yet, he and his mom talked about it. And Tom said, "Mother, doesn't God always answer prayers when we pray?" And Mother said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you know, we have both been praying really, so I'm sure God's going to let us have it." Well, it finally came time to go to bed. And Tom, he said, I can't sleep at all. I just need to just sit up." And Mom said, "No, Tom, you need to try to go to sleep. You'll feel much better in the morning, and you'll be able to be alert and with it when you go to see Mr. Lawrence. Now you go to bed." Well, of course, Tom did sleep, and the next thing he knew, it was morning. He got up so eager, he got dressed as neatly as he could. He rushed downstairs, and Mom had made him a good breakfast, but he said, "I can't possibly eat. I need to just go." Mother said, "Sit down, eat your breakfast. We need to have worship too." Well, Tom, he knew that that was right. And he was just sure God was going to answer his prayer today. Well, soon enough, he was on his way. And he went to Mr. Lawrence's store. It was the nicest store in town. And when he went in, Mr. Lawrence said, "I'm really sorry, Tom, but I had to give the job to the other boy. He needed it worse than you did." Tom couldn't believe it. He slowly walked back home. He opened the front door and he went directly into their little tiny living room. And he sat down in front of the fireplace. He put his hands over his face, and the tears were running down his cheeks, running through his fingers. Well, his mother had heard the door open. She heard his footsteps. But he hadn't come jubilantly running in, telling her he had gotten the job. So she dried her hands on the dish towel and went into the living room. And there she saw Tom. Tom said, "I didn't get it, Mom. The other boy got the job." "What good is it to pray if we don't get what we pray for?" And Mom said, "Tom." And he said, "Well, I think I shouldn't pray anymore." And Mother said, "Tom, you know better than that. You know God hears and answers our prayers. Maybe this wasn't best for you." And Tom said, "But Mom, I knew it was best for us." But Mother, she said, "I can't tell you why the other boy got it. But surely you don't mean you're not going to pray to God anymore." And Tom looked down. He said, "I guess not. You're right. But I just don't understand." Well, about 3 weeks later, Tom had found another position at another store. It wasn't nearly as nice and it didn't pay nearly as well, but it was a job. When Tom got to work, his boss came to him and he said, "Tom, I have an errand for you to go on today. I want you to go." And he gave him an address, and it was in one of the poorer areas of the town. He said, "I want you to go there to this address, and I want you to try to collect the money. This lady owes me, and I've been sending people out, and nobody's been able to get any money out of her. I don't know whether she's so poor or whether she just doesn't want to pay. But I'm going to get my money, and you're going to go today." So Tom agreed. He took the address. It took him a while to get there because it was in the heart of the poor district. And when he got there, he looked at the building. It was kind of falling down and unpainted, and it was very tall. Well, Tom stopped at the desk, and he gave the lady's name. And they directed him to the very top floor. And no, there wasn't an elevator. So Tom started up those stairs. By the time he got to the top of the stairs, he was totally out of breath. And he stood there in a dirty, broken down hallway in front of an unpainted door with just the numbers on it. He went, I sure wouldn't want to live here. Well, he knocked on the door. Well, then a pretty lady, dressed neatly and clean, came to the door holding a beautiful little baby. And down by her skirts was another baby holding on. And when Tom looked inside the door, there was 3 other children sitting on the floor playing. And there was almost no furniture. Oh, it wasn't dirty at all. But it was so poor looking. And Tom told the lady, he said, I've come from this company and I'm to collect the money for the coal. And the lady's smile burst out and she said, oh, and I have it for you. And she rushed over to get it. She turned around and she said, won't you sit down? So Tom sat down and she came and she sat down across from him. And she said, I am so excited because this last couple weeks ago, my son, he got a job again, a good position, and now we have money to pay. You know, it's been so hard. The job my son had last year, it was a factory, and the factory burnt down, and Ben, he couldn't find another job. We nearly starved to death, and then we almost froze to death without money for food or coal. But God answered our prayers. We prayed so hard for this job. And Tom thought to himself, you know, this sounds kind of familiar. And he said, what store is he working at, ma'am? And she said, oh, he works for Mr. Lawrence. It's wonderful. Now we won't starve and we won't freeze. God is so good, Mr. Lawrence. And he turned to the lady and he said, I'm glad he got a good position. And she said, would you please tell your boss we'll be able to pay right on time from now on. Thank you so much. Well, as Tom went down those long stairs, flight after flight to the bottom, the wheels of his mind were going round and round. When he got home that night, he rushed in to where his mother was, and he said, oh, Mother, I know why I didn't get that job. And he told his mother about the lady with her 5 children in that horrible, ugly, broken down building, and how she and her children had been almost starving and almost freezing to death. And her son, Ben, was the one that got the position with Mr. Lawrence. And he said, now I understand. We both were praying, but God knew that Ben needed the job worse than we did. Boys and girls, yes, God always answers. Sometimes he says yes, sometimes he says no, and sometimes There's more than one person praying for the same thing. And God knows the end from the beginning, and He knows who needed that job the most. Thank you, boys and girls, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.